Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Ball Watching presented by Hoff Brothers in this 2024 edition. Jake and Justin back at it with you here on this Wednesday evening, Thursday morning, Friday, Saturday, whenever you're listening to us. Thank you for tuning in. Justin, how are we feeling today?
Feeling good. Weather's a little bit colder than what I'd like it to be, but Jake, it's March Madness week. One of the best weeks of the year for sports. I'm so excited. Thursday and Friday. Going to watch as much as I can. Definitely going to have to watch a lot more after work, but it's going to be a jam-packed week with sports and then our upcoming game at home against DC United.
Yes, and more games as well, which we'll get to in our quick news for all of you soccer lovers. But Justin, you've got us a little bit today on a five-a-side. What do we have? What do we have cooking?
I made it related to your bracket. Thinking about March Madness, Jake. So how well do you know March Madness? And this is going to be 4 points of the 5. Who are the 4 1 seeds?
Well, okay. UConn, Purdue, Houston, and UNC.
Well done. That was pretty easy. Now we're going to make it a little bit more local for the 5th point. When was the last time that SLU made the NCAA tournament?
They got in recently because they won the A10 tournament. They were in when we were in college as well when they beat NC State, but that was, I think, 2014. But they made it again recently. So I want to say, was it 2021?
2019, the last tournament before. Yep, the last tournament before COVID. You were spot on with the 2014 when we were in college, so I'll give you a half point there. But that was pretty good for putting you on the spot right away.
I know zero, by the way, about basketball. Like, this is the only time I ever watch a full game is during this time of year.
That's sad. We're gonna have to fix that.
I would watch SLU, but man, it's just not. It's not good watching recently.
Well, now that Travis Ford's out, we've already talked about that. Yep. We won't bring up about the whole Chris May situation right now and how he's winning awards somehow. But the rumor has it that we may be getting Chris Mack, who used to coach at Louisville and Xavier. That's the one that Mike Ritter posted in there from Bleacher Report. But the main one that's been hitting the storylines is Indiana State's head coach.
All that.
And if we got him, then we'd get Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. If you haven't seen him, Jake, look up some highlights after this. Big white guy. If we get that coach and he brings Kareem with him, I will become a season ticket holder again.
Probably top 5 athlete in St. Louis if that guy comes with him. 100%.
Absolutely. Yes.
All right. Is that okay? I think I did okay there. I did okay.
I wanted to make it quick. We have a big packed episode today. Some other things to cover as well, but just 5 quick questions. I'd give you a 4.5.
Cool. Okay, I'll take that. That's a high B, low A. So let's run into it, Justin. Just some quick news before we get into the preview here as we head for the DC United preview as they come here to City Park this weekend. But before we get to that, there's a big match tomorrow night. So I'm saying tomorrow night on Wednesday right now. So Thursday night, if you're listening to this beforehand, 3/21, March 21st, the U.S. men's national team is taking on the Reggae Boys, Jamaica, in the CONCACAF Nations League semifinal, which is pretty cool. We are looking to three-peat in this tournament. I think it's the 3rd time ever it'll be fully done. So we would be the only winners ever of the Nations League. But we have to play the Reggae Boys first. They're missing a bunch of their star players, including Mikhail Antonio, Damari Gray, Leon Bailey, to name a few. This is absolutely without a doubt that we should win. And we have some absences as well. Notably, Josh Sargent, really bummed to see him miss camp through injury, but nothing too serious from what I'm hearing. But it's exciting for this team to be at another stage where they can make a jump to another final, get this year off to a good start heading into Copa America. I'm pretty pumped about it. It's on at 6 p.m. on Thursday on Paramount Plus.
Yeah, I'm going to have to be, as you said, it's tomorrow night, which is in the heart of the best sports day of the year with March Madness. So I'm going to have to be at a bar with like 8 TVs. And honestly, I might even demote the U.S. game to my phone. I just love March Madness. It's tough. I know that's probably not a good thing to say on a soccer podcast. I'm going to demote the U.S. team to my phone, but I will be watching. But it's just hard to not just watch all of these different college basketball games at the same time. There's going to be like 5 college basketball games on during that soccer game.
There is. And I'm going to try to get at least to watch part of this one because the final is also this weekend. The final's on Sunday night at 8:15 on Paramount Plus, and that will be the winner of Panama, Mexico. So we could have another U.S. Mexico matchup here coming this weekend, which would be a great way to cap off a great sports weekend. So fingers crossed there. I think the boys will get this done. I think Jamaica's probably going to pack it in and play super tight and look to hit us on the counter, which we historically struggle against, which I think is reminiscent of this team as well with City. But I think we have the tools to get it done. Let's go to City, Justin, here. We have a couple big things to highlight this week. Berkey made team of the week, match day 5 team of the week as the goalkeeper. Unbelievable 6-save performance. You highlighted it in your bit in the podcast. Goal of the match day for match day 5 was Nilsson on his bike. St. Louis shows out, and I think he narrowly edged out Giacomakis from Atlanta to claim the goal of the week. It was a great goal, and he had no business scoring that at all.
Nilsson's was incredible. They called it a bike. It was kind of like a half bike. It was, and it went into the side netting. It was a great finish, but I mean, I'm just happy for the guy. That was an awesome finish on him and an incredible game. We talked about it. That was one of the most back and forth games we've had as in the history of this club, on a 3-3 tie over an LA Galaxy. And it showed. It actually meant a lot for us as we moved up in the power rankings from 13 to 8 this week, which is quite the jump. And it really shows you kind of how much people are really putting behind the Galaxy and how much they spent in the offseason and starting to pay off a little bit.
Heading into this match day, into our preview, I think we're still carrying 2 injuries, at least as we know of today. That could change with the availability report coming out on Friday. But as of right now, the only 2 I'm tracking are Blum and Leuven, neither of whom I'm really thinking, especially Leuven, are close, at least enough to be considered this game. I heard Blum was not actually out last game. He was actually questionable, but he didn't make the bench. So I'm not counting on him for this game. We're not going to feature him in our starting 11. And it's the same with Leuven. I think both of them are probably looking at conservatively mid to late April in terms of availability for this team. So let's get to DC, Justin. Didn't play him last year. And for the most part, I'd say a lot like the Galaxy. I think they're undergoing a lot of change as well, a lot of roster turnover and a new coach as they saw out Wayne Rooney last year. And they brought in Troy Lesesne. This is actually going to be a fun preview, Justin, because a lot of the same principles that DC now plays with under Troy Lesesne are a lot of the same ones that we play with here at City. He's part of that Red Bull umbrella, that lineage of coaching, which is really fun. And he coached the St. Louis native last season.
Yeah, he coached. He actually coached the Tom Barlows. I mean, the New York Red Bulls to a playoff spot. When he took over on May 8th, the team was in last place with 1 win, 4 losses, and 6 draws. He brought them all the way to the 8th seed in the East with 11 wins, 10 draws, and 13 losses. It's tough to see him go out on something like that. They beat Charlotte in the first round before losing to Cincy. Obviously, was tracking them very closely with Tom, but now Tom's on the fire. I don't really care about the Red Bulls anymore.
Also, shout the fire, that game winner with the 45-mile-an-hour winds. It was I watched Extra Time After, Justin, and Andrew Wiebe was saying that he looked up the NCOA or whatever the National like Geographic Weather Service, and they registered the record high wind that day, and it came at that exact moment that Kellen Acosta hit that ball. So just magic in the air in Chicago. You have to attribute at least part of it to Tom Barlow. But I think part of Tom Barlow's good season last season and his move to Chicago came because of Troy Lesesne. He's cut his teeth. I mean, he's coached in USL with New Mexico United for 3 seasons. Then he was assistant to Gerard Struber for New York Red Bulls. And then he was hired full-time here at DC United for his first season, effectively replacing the last head coach, Wayne Rooney. A couple other big incomings for DC United. They brought in Aaron Herrera, who's a pretty solid fullback in the MLS. It's his 7th season here. He played 5 with RSL, and his last one was with CF Montreal prior. They brought in permanently Gabriel Pirani, which we'll talk more about. They brought in the menace himself, Jared Stroud, and Lucas Bartlett, who I'd say especially Stroud factored very prominently into our plans last season and was a huge piece of the puzzle for us. And I think one that we're sneakily kind of still missing. So those are some of the big incomings.
I was pretty surprised, Jake, when looking at the stats on how those guys are doing. It's like, oh, we kind of pushed them off as role players. They both started and played the 4 games for DC United. Stroud, he's played 293 minutes, so averaging about 67 minutes per full 90s with 1 goal on 9 shots already. So he's coming off around the same time that we typically took him off. And Bartlett, 4 games played, 4 starts, 338 minutes, only 22 minutes away from full 90s every game so far. And I'm really happy to see that those guys are kind of still making a name for themselves and making their way through it. Because, I mean, we gave them up for, as we now can talk about, the outgoing of Durkin, who's been a dog for us. And I think Durkin's been an incredible move in for us. So looking at it right now for both these teams, it seems like a win-win.
Yeah, the only other two outgoings I mentioned for DC are a center back and another right back for them, which was the Aaron Herrera trade. Ruan was the right back. He went to Montreal in the switch. And then Donovan Pines, who I think they let go to League One in England for Barnsley. So a lot of turnover in this roster. We kind of just highlighted some notables because last season was just not acceptable for them. They went 10-14 and 10 win-loss draw, gathered 40 points and missed the East wild card by 3 points, gathering a home record of 6-5-6, away of 4-9-4, and they culminated in a -4 goal differential, about 45 goals for, 49 against last season. This season's off to a better start. I think they've drawn some tougher teams to begin the 2024 campaign, though.
Yeah, when you look at it, I mean, their first game was against the Revolution, and Benteke had a hat trick, and they won 3-1 at home. Then they went to Portland and tied them 2-2, tied at Cincy 0-0, and then lost at home versus Miami in their most recent game 3-1. But that's not a. If you look at those four teams, the Revs, Portland, Cincy, Miami, those are going to likely be 4 playoff teams this year, in my opinion, Jake. And I think it's a tough start for them to go about, but having a 1 win, 1 loss, and 2 draw start, not anything that really be upset about, I would say, if you're DC fans, except for when you look at some of the star power that they have.
Definitely. And some of the star power we'll go ahead and highlight here. One, I think that's not is supposed to be a star for them that's still young enough to make that star status, but is not living up to it just yet, is Gabriel Pirani, who is kind of a central attacking midfielder for them, or a number 10. He's 21-year-old still. He's Brazilian. He was acquired on loan last season in the summer in July from Santos out of the Brazilian Serie A. But then he signed a 2-year deal permanently this offseason. He played 10 games last year. All 10 of them were starts. And he averaged about 84 minutes per game. So he put a lot of minutes in his legs, but only got to 1 goal on 19 shots and 8 on target. This season so far, he's factored in all 4 of their games. He's started all 4 of their games and played 70 minutes, generated 11 shots, 2 shots on target. Probably looking at him being more of that key pass creator, that chance creator for fellow teammates. And he has a guy like Christian Benteke sitting right in front of him.
Benteke's just kind of, when I looked up this too, Jake, I mean, I know he's kind of been a guy that's always been around, but 33 years old, and he is 6'3", 183 pounds. Originally born in Congo, but you guys know him just basically from playing the Belgian national team as well. He fled with his family when he was only 3 years old. Started his professional career back in 2007 with Genk, but had played in the EPL from 2012 to 2022 with Aston Villa, Liverpool, and Crystal Palace, mostly Crystal Palace, totaling 86 goals and 280 appearances in the EPL, which is an incredible length to play, and then come over to the MLS and score a hat trick this season as well. The man still got it. Belgian national team, been with them since 2010, 18 goals and 45 appearances. Last year for DC United, an absolute workhorse, started all 31 games that he played in with 14 goals, which was tied for 7th in the MLS. And then he also had 4 assists. He also led the MLS in offsides. The only reason that I saw that, Jake, was when I was looking at his goals and assists, he had 37 offsides. The next closest, 29. So the man can kind of struggle to try to hold that back line. This year, we've already talked about it. 2 games played with 2 starts, with 3 goals on 10 shots, 5 of those being on target. All 3 goals came in the first game versus the Revs. He did have a little bit of a thigh injury, which kept him out for 2 games, but he'll be ready to go. He was the MLS Player of the Week, week 1, no duh, with a hat trick.
Yeah, he's a beast. I watched the last game they go against Miami. I thought he was a little bit wasteful, but I'm looking at his stats just from the padding that he got on the hat trick. He leads the MLS so far this season in goals per 90, non-penalty goals per 90, non-penalty XG per 90. He's just a dangerous player all around, and not probably one of the tougher 9s you'll play against this season if you're the St. Louis City's back line. They have a great central midfielder in Mateusz, and I've heard this 2 ways, by the way, Klisz and Click. So whatever you guys want to say, just pick one. But he's a 33-year-old Poland international, also very big guy. I think DC is a bigger type team, and he's 6 feet 185. Is another DP of theirs. He was signed in January of last year from Leeds. We know Leeds, where he earned $1.5 million per year and had 21 goals on 177 appearances. He's the guy I'd say is probably equivalent to us as importance-wise as Leuven. He can contribute at both ends. He's got really great vision, really great passing, and he can also get pretty physical. He had 10 yellows last season in 32 games played. 31 of those being starts. So his availability is exceptional for DC. And this season, he's off to a great start as well with 4 starts in all 4 games played, 1 goal, 1 assist. So a very prominent part of this team.
Yeah, and those 4 games that he started and played, he's played full 90s as well, which I think shows a lot. And that's hard to do in this league, I would say, and also keep your legs, especially when you talk about someone like a Leuven and running around and playing that much and trying to own the midfield. I'm going to do the honorable mention this year as well, Jake. We're just going to roll right. Mati Peltola. Got it? Yeah. 21, close enough. 21-year-old from Finland, signed 7 weeks ago as a young DP that for them. So he came over from the Finnish side. Here we go again. Helinski tallying 3 goals and 4 assists for them over in Finland in 96 games as they won 3 straight titles. And this guy was a huge part of that this season already. He has started 4 games for DC United, played full 90s in all 4 games.
Yeah, he's supposed to be a big creator for them as well. I think he's still got some runway, and they're taking a page out of our book, going over to Scandinavia, making signings. I don't know what gives them the right here, but I think Troy Lesane, like Bradley Carnell, kind of comes up through the ranks in a similar way. Again, this is his first full season as a head coach at this tier. He known for playing a 4-1-3-2 or a 4-2-3-1 formation-wise, but I think it's the comments and the style of play that I am particularly interested in. So I got this quote from their goalkeeper, Alex Bono, who is quote saying, "It's very hands-on, it's very intense, in your face, high focus, high intensity all the time." Does that ring any sort of bell to you? It does to me. It said they will look to pounce on opponents' mistakes with a pressing approach for attack with the hope to create more scoring opportunities. Ding, ding, ding. Again, I feel like I read everything about this team and I look at the stats and they're like our little brother. They're doing so many of the same things. And I think they've been, remotely successful so far this season against some decent opposition, especially. So I think it's kind of like a look inwards game for us. When you go to prep for this, it's everything that we would normally practice and do to other teams. This team is looking to do to us. So I'm really actually, Justin, like skipping ahead a little bit. I'm a little bit confused as to how I feel like this game is going to go, because it's kind of a battle of 2 very, very similar philosophies.
I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of midfield play. I think we're going to cut out the midfield completely. I thought you already have a note in here that's going to be important for us, for our defenders to stay high and make their mistakes high, because we can't just make it a blunder in our own final third and let Benteke run right down our throats and hit a shot on Roman Berkey. So it's going to be an interesting one. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of passing. I think we're going to see a lot of long balls in here, and I already looked ahead to what one of your bets is, and I think I know why when we're thinking about that and what type of game that's going to be playing here. But it makes sense that Benteke had the most offsides last year, because when they counter, I'm assuming that big man just literally does a 180 and sprints, and they just say go, and he probably doesn't get clipped in soon enough. So I will say, just in general on this, for storylines for DC United, their last 5 away is a loss, draw, loss. So I will say that, yes, obviously still kind of goes into last season, so take that as it may. With only 0.94 points per match in away games last year with a -12 goal differential, some of the strengths we've already talked about, long shots, creating scoring chances, and aerial duels. But their offense so far this year, Jake, has been pretty off the charts.
Yeah, it's been going. Offense has been chugging along. They have the number 2 XG so far this season through 4 games, of course, with 1.97 per 90. That's pretty impressive. They're putting away 1.5 of those, so just 1.5 goals for per game. So, underperforming, but I still think almost 2 XG is pretty impressive. Looking away last season, obviously that kind of tapered off a little bit. They were closer to the 1.5 range in XG away from home. Only scored 14 of their 45 total goals. So they scored about every 110 minutes when they played away from home. Fun fact, a third of those goals, this is, again, last season. I think, by the way, for anyone listening to these previews, we're going to make the full jump to all 2024 stats starting next week, now that we have like a 5-match sample size. I think it's enough to go off of. But still, looking at last year for just this one, they scored a third of their goals in the final 15 minutes of the matches last year, which scares me a little bit, I'm not going to lie. And in terms of their shot and sort of danger, they were average shots on target, a little bit higher top 10 in shots per 90. So they are, a high output type team in terms of opportunities. Fun fact, this year, top 10 in set piece shots and set piece XG. So this is a team you've got to be flipped on for and not be giving away dumb fouls in dangerous areas. We've already harped on it a lot this season. Let's hope that we can clean it up.
Yeah, we've talked about that. Seventh fewest passes. That's what I'm saying. I don't think this is going to be a very midfield-minded game. It's going to be trying to slip guys in behind one-on-one, get crosses and get shots on their possession. Not really much to talk about. 49.6%. Yeah, average, almost 50-50. Looking at their defense this year, their XGA of 1.45 per 90 is 12th worst. So still kind of hanging around in the middle range there with a 1.50 goals against per game, which is a little bit above average. I think there's been a lot of goals scored in the MLS so far this year. So that's not that surprising. 20% of their goals against come from the 31st to 45th, so just right before halftime. And then the next 18% come from the 46th to 60th and 61st to 75th. So almost more looking at right around halftime is when they can really give up goals so far this year. Number 18 and shots on target against, top 10 in shots ending in high turnovers as well.
Yeah, so this is another team that's bottom 5 when you look at expected goals against from set pieces. So as dangerous as they are on offensive set pieces, they are also very prone to danger from defending set pieces as well. So you've got to be really strong with this team on the set pieces. I think it's a hill that both teams are going to die on. And I think the winner of that battle likely stands the best chance in winning this game. I don't think their goalkeeping is too much to write home about. They have two, named goalkeepers. When I say named, I've heard of them, and I've heard of them around the league for a while. But Tyler Miller, who I believe is hurt, and Alex Bono, who used to be, I think, Canada's starter. So it's okay. I looked at it this past weekend. I think Bono would have liked one of those back against Miami. But another area I think we could look to exploit, because we have the best goalkeeper in the league, and they do not at all. So let's talk about some keys of the game. We've kind of teed it up a little bit, Justin, because again, I feel like it's everything that we do, we know they're going to do to us, and we need to be ready to be more poised and to actually adjust to those things. So I'll start with one. Possession is going to be very, very finite for both of these teams. It's not going to be something either team is really looking for much of, nor do they want, because the other team wants them to have possession. So I think when we do have possession, we've got to be very crisp on our passing, very strong on the ball, because DC is going to press us high and look to create those counters and fast breaks in situations where they can dispossess us. Their passes per defensive action is actually better than ours. So their passes per defensive action is 7.6 this season to our 11. So again, they don't let much space for you to breathe. And I think that's why they go out and get a guy like Jared Stroud, because he epitomizes that style of play. And they also do a lot of counter pressing as well with the Gegen pressing. Their numbers are better than us as well in that category. So they're definitely going to be breathing down our necks the entire match, and you've got to be clean in those moments.
And not only that, Jake, but you have it here that we need to clog up the midfield. It's not because they're going to play through us in the middle, but they're going to use them as bumpers and try to play the ball in, up, back, through kind of thing, or either get inside and go back into the corners. So one thing we need to do is shut those down. And I think all of this is kind of leading to the one thing that I want to kind of round it into on the next thing is defensive transition. When we lose the ball, we need to get back to shut it down. But I think more immediately, Jake, something that scared me last season, and now that we're talking about the way that they played this season, if we lose the ball in the midfield or in their third and they're about to counter, we need to end it. Take the smart yellow, take the foul. Don't be overly egregious to where you're getting a red or a second yellow, but don't let these guys counter on us. If you're in a bad spot, if you're Durkin, or if you're someone in the midfield with Indy or Ostrak or AZ, if you lose the ball and man cannot just run freely by you, in my opinion, especially if it's right around half or just in their half. The ref's just going to give you a little slap on the wrist. You're going to be like, I'm sorry, and jog back. Way better than having Benteke get slotted in.
No, I definitely agree. And the last thing, and we've already talked about it, Justin, is set piece defending. I think this is one of the biggest danger areas that they have. They're generating per game right now 0.50 XG per 90 from set pieces alone. And I think a lot of it's because they win a lot of good aerial duels. They have a bigger team than normal, and I think they get some good service. So you need our team to be able to counteract those threats and just be hungrier in the box, and also just prevent these from in the first place. Don't give up dumb fouls. When you have the chance, take your chance, but be composed, especially I'd say in your own third. Just let's dial it back a little bit. We got to play our game for sure, but let's pick and choose our moments, especially where we are spatially on the field. And then we focus a lot on defense here, Justin. I'd almost just say the inverse for everything offensively is, make sure you dispossess them when they have possession. Make sure that we can actually play through the midfield or counter our midfielders to possess the ball or distribute it out wide or up to a Sam Adeniran or up to a Joao Klaus. In transition moments, DC does not transition well. Miami hit them time and time again on transition. So everything that we need to do defensively, we need to counter do on the attacking side. It's just a weird game to plan for. You look at us on a chart in terms of fast and direct teams versus slow and intricate teams. We are literally the closest two teams on there. So it's just a battle of two, like I said, very similar philosophies, but you got to have goals. And my goal is no set piece goals allowed for this game. I think if we can do that, we stand a great chance at coming away with 3 points here.
Yeah, we already talked about how big that team is. We don't want to be giving up corners or these little fluky free kicks that we've been talking about for the past, 4 games now. We're giving up free kicks 20, 15 yards outside our box that allows them to flick those in. Imagine trying to, I don't care if we're having Sam or anybody on him or Nilsson, trying to get Benteke not to win a head ball is going to be impossible with that guy. What is he, 6'3", 183, I think is what we said earlier. And he can fly in the air as well. So I think that's a good goal for you to have. My goal for us, Jake, is to score first. I think this is a game that could get out of hand quickly. And I would say not even get out of hand. That's a poor choice of words. I would say that the other team is going to gain a lot of momentum by scoring because this is a high-powered offense on both sides. And if we can dispossess and take it from them on their back line and score first, City Park will erupt. If they do that to us, it's going to be an oh shit moment, and we're going to have to try to bounce back.
Yep, we will. So let's get into our starting 11 presented by Hoffman Brothers. Hoffman Brothers, a strong starting lineup sets the tone for the game. We know how that goes. You've got to have that strong, solid offense and a potent defense. And just like a well-chosen lineup, Hoffman Brothers can lead you to victory and on your home. They can be and lead you to peace of mind. And that is just all we need in this day and age is someone that is in your corner, helping you do the things that you don't know how to do. So Hoffman Brothers is your partner. They are going to lead you to the promised land on the home front here. Give them a call. It's springtime. 314-664-3011, or visit them online at Hoffman Brothers, HOFFMANN bros.com. Hoffman Brothers, they're the ones, and they're going to get it done for you. Let's go into the starting 11. I was torn a little bit on some of these decisions today, Justin, on my starting 11. Because I'm kind of going against some things that I've mentioned through the last couple of weeks, but let me just lay it out for you here. Berkey, I'm giving Dewar to start this game. I know you're giving me crap the last couple of weeks, just speaking to his existence, but I think he came on and had a nice 30-minute, half-hour cameo, and I think it's time to give him a full 90 here. So he's coming at left back for Marcanic. Nilsson and Yarrow, I'm sticking with. I haven't heard anything about Parker. If Parker's available, you stick Parker right back in where Yarrow is. But until I hear anything, I can't say anything. And then I'm going back to Totland on the right. On my midfield, I'm going to a 4. So I'm going to 4-4-2 here. And I'm going to Celio, Durkin, Ostrak, and Indy. In my midfield, again, no Leuven, so I'm going Ostrak there. And I think Indy and Celio both maintain their places. I am going to an Adeniran and Klaus up top. And I think Carnell will do this as well. I don't think we've perfected this 2 up front. I would like maybe for them to play equally versus Klaus just dropping back all the time here. But I do think this is a game you've got to give Adeniran enough time in because this is the type of game that Adeniran lives for. So I just can't find a way to not start him in this game.
No, Jake, I appreciate this lineup. I agree with you, though. If Parker's healthy, he needs to be in for Yarrow. I'm cool with you doing Dewar on this one. I do think that Marcanic's had a chance. I think he's had a couple of slip-ups just on how he's turning his hips on some of these balls he's slipped in behind. And Dewar hasn't done anything to make me worry when he does come in. So let's see what he's got for a full 90. I'm obviously good with Totland. And then as far as like a 4-4-2, I was once you said this, I was like, I love the 4-2-3-1. But if this is one of those teams that isn't going to be playing through the midfield, why do we need to stack a diamond in there? So I'm cool with that as well. Putting Celio on the left, Durkin and Ostrak trying to hold it down in front, Indy on the right, let them both cut in. And then with Klaus and Adeniran up top, I go back and forth, right? So, we still haven't been able to make that click. But like I said, we might need to just let it play out until it does start clicking. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see them both up there. Obviously, AZ has been playing a ton of minutes. I would love to see AZ come in as a spark plug in this game anyways, like we've been talking about, and doing one of these late presses. And what if he can get someone to turn the ball over, and then he slips in a Adeniran or a Klaus or Indy, depending on who comes off when he comes on. So I'm completely fine with that. And having AZ come off the bed or off the bench as a spark plug and call it the 65th. I don't like really bringing guys on later than that because I don't think it gives them enough time to really get warmed up and kind of into the game.
All right, predictions and Grahammers, Justin. I'm predicting a 2-1 victory for City here at City Park. The lines right now are set at minus 105 for City, DC at plus 240, draw at plus 255, the over-under set at 2.5, with the over at minus 150 and the under at plus 115. What's your prediction and what's your bet? And I'll finish us with my bet.
I'm going with a 3-1 dub. I think that we are going to continue to ride this hot hand. Yes, I know we're still missing Leuven and Blum and possibly Parker, but I think the team showed it. And I think there's no reason why we can't go out to LA and score 3 goals and can't do it at home again against DC. So I'm going with 3-1 dub. That automatically knows that my bet is City over 1.5 at home, minus 120. Jake, I will say also with how much DC has scored in the last, 20 minutes of games, the over 1.5 in the second half is minus 125 as well. So something to keep an eye on. I think there's going to be goals in this game. I don't think Roman's going to be able to keep these guys out. They're too high powered at the offense.
I'm putting some money out on this one, and I'm going to go a Dinnerand anytime as my official lock of the week. I would have gone both teams to score an over 2.5, but that feels boring because I just did it last week. So I'm taking a Dinnerand anytime goal at plus 150. This just feels like a game for him. Justin, before we end here, I got a couple of questions that I wanted to just toss out here. What are your thoughts on Yaro? This is from Kevin on X. I think he's got talent, but I can't trust him in meaningful minutes. 1,000% agree right now. I think if we have our center backs all available, he is a great third center back to have come off the bench and support and stopgap for injuries. I just don't think he's shown the consistency we need to be a consistent starter there. And then we get another question here about Thor here, Justin. What do you think the club's plans are for Thor? Last year was all about the focus on this year. He only has 1 star. He's played very little game time. This is from Jeremiah on X. What do you think about Thor? What's the plan?
He's been an interesting one for me because when he came over and like the highlight videos that City put out, I loved it. I thought it literally captioned one. It still stuck in my mind, just like Thor bangers. And it was just all of these just long shots that he's been hitting. And I just have yet to see him create those kind of chances. And I don't know if it's a different type of league and he's not one of the quickest guys. He's not going to take guys one-on-one. I think we just need to give him a little space and let him hit some rippers. But I just don't know if it's a guy that we continue to take a chance on right now. And unless we get put in a bind, which we just really haven't been with this team, like Alm. I think once Alm comes back, he's obviously going to be over Thor. I think Alm will be over Celio and be over Ostrak as well. So like we have so many of those guys that rotate in those spots. Thor is probably a little bit helpless right now, in my opinion. But what are your thoughts?
No, I totally agree. I think he's a victim of guys ahead of him playing well and having good form. As long as Celio maintains his form and doesn't significantly drop off, not much room for Thor. When you get Alm back, I think he moves even further down the pecking order. Our formation doesn't help either without any true wingers. I think in our system right now, I just don't think this is set up for him at the moment. I'm not writing him off. I think he could factor in at some point here. Last question is, what's target for the summer? I'm thinking we need an offensive-minded attacking midfielder that can do a little bit more than AZ from STL City Italian. One, we got to see what's going to happen to him and if he's going to come to life for us this year. He's been fine, but I don't think he's met the expectations that's been thrust upon him. He could also be gone this summer. We could sell him, in which case we definitely need an attacking midfielder to add there. But I think the club is more focused on looking on the wide space on the winger side and looking for someone that has goals consistently in their game. I think that's where we've been linked with most heavily. I don't have any names I want to throw out there yet, but I also think we're not in a rush. Things are going just fine for us right now. We're not going to splash heavy and stifle any of these younger guys from getting minutes right now.
Yeah, I would like to see another striker. I don't think we have to rely as heavily on Klaus. And then that way, then we could even push Sam out to the wing, where I think he's been playing his best. If we dump the balls in the corner and just let him run against some smaller wing backs. But, Jake, I have a couple on Instagram real quick. A couple more funny ones than anything. Stroud gets a yellow, over under 99.9%. Yes, on the over. Absolutely. That's from GLA _I. Another one from EMC Who says, Parker, will he finally get his chance to full body Stroud in a game? Haha, but really. And that also kind of leads into one that Shelby has here. Wills, Jared, and Lucas lose some of their edge because the boys know their game? I don't know. Yeah, go ahead.
They're such competitive guys. I don't think they're going to lose anything. I think if anything, they're going to be even more amped for it to go against the guys. I don't think they're going to lose a step at all. If I was them, I'd be very excited to come back home. Maybe feel like I'm missing out a little bit So I think they've kind of jumped to us, not even last year, but more of a project in DC. But at least that's guaranteed game time. Like Bartlett couldn't get that, and he is a huge factor on their back line already. So I think it has worked out for everyone. I'm also loving Durkin's homecoming game here against DC. We don't get to play him every year. So I think he'll be looking to prove himself and show them what they're missing. I think right now, both teams actually got a pretty good value out of that trade.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's a win-win on both sides. And if anything, you know that Stroud can feed off the crowd. And I think even if it's going to be cheering for City, he's going to feed off of that sense. I would just really hope that we don't have a Kip Keller to Stroud blunder. That would be ridiculous if we have something like that. So hopefully no chance there. Sorry to bring that up. Bartlett, I think he can also feed off the crowd. I have nothing bad to say about Mr. Bartlett, and I think he's been playing great so far for DC. So I hope he can also feed off the crowd there. One more I want to ask Jake. 4 parentheses plus 2 games into the season. Biggest improvement from end of last year, and what's our biggest concern? That's from Chris.
Biggest improvement for me is we can be dangerous in build up and possession. We aren't only able to create from takeaways, from displacing possession from other teams. I think it's the biggest improvement. What was the other part of that question, Justin?
And then what's your biggest concern for the season so far?
Set piece defending has been brutal. I don't think it was as bad last year. And I think if we're consistently open at the back on set pieces, teams will always have some sort of way, because even bad teams get set pieces in dangerous positions every single game, regardless. It just happens. You've got to be able to cut those out of your game, or at least minimize those chances and the goals that come from them. So I think those are my 2.
Yeah, I would say our biggest improvement is our right and left back. And it wasn't a hole per se, nothing to say for those guys last year, but just the way that Totland stepped up, like haven't even had to question who's going there. And last year we were rotating guys in and out like it was a revolving door. So I think I'm happy to have some more mainstays there. Dewey could be coming in and take over for Marcanic, but that's a good problem to have. I would say biggest concern right now is a mixture of 2 things. I want to say, one, health. This is something that I think we're seeing early on this season that last year, yeah, we had a really downside with Klaus going out for 19 games, but overall, I think that the majority of the team's health was there. I think we've been seeing a lot of guys take early knocks so far this year, and not having Leuven for a couple of weeks and Blum, and then Parker's out a little bit here. And we don't know how healthy Alm is and some of the guys, and Nilsson now coming back fully. Like, can we get a good stretch of health with these guys? And then lastly, I think Klaus, I would really love to see him put one away this weekend and get back on his horse to kind of ride us into a tough upcoming stretch.
I agree. Wouldn't that be nice to have Klaus get on the board this weekend against DC? I would love to see it. And you can see us at City Park and at the pitch prior to this match this weekend. It's going to be a good one. I think there will be goals in this game. It'll be an exciting match, I think, to watch, with the 2 styles clashing here, being very, very similar to each other. So I'm looking forward to it, Justin. That's been our preview for City DC. Any final thoughts?
The last thought I have is get outside, St. Louis. This weather's a little cold, but the sun's out there. Go for a run. And after you do, grab yourself a Soul Juice. Go to souljuice.com, get 20% off using code BALLWATCHING. Go to Schnucks, Deerbird, Straub, Sam's, Costco, wherever you want to go. Get some Soul Juice and stay healthy.
Awesome. Well, live it up, St. Louis. We'll see you this weekend. And for now, roll City.
Roll City.